welcome back. Today we are finishing off the Syndicate with One Son, episode 12 of season 6. Premiering February 14th, 1999, One Son is the thrilling conclusion to 6 years of conspiracy, alien abductions, medical experiments, and this guy not opening his damn mouth when he talks. The episode begins with Mulder yammering on about God knows what. Like mentioned in Two Fathers, a lot of the story was supposed to be told in flashbacks, and I can kind of understand why they decided not to. Slapping some wigs on much older men to try and make them look younger just looks kinda silly. Suddenly some aliens show up, but I'm not sure what giving them an American flag is supposed to do. Maybe they're really patriotic aliens? We're then caught up with the ending of Two Fathers as a bunch of jerks in biohazard suits break their way into Mulder's apartment. What I would like to know is if they were going to break the door down anyways, why did they spend so much time knocking on it first?
Quarantine for what?
A contagion.
The only contagion in this room is Fowley. Anyways, the X-Files suddenly turns into a Skinamax production because we have a steamy shower scene. Look at these two perverts definitely taking a peek. Though it's not like they haven't seen each other in the nude before, although Mulder sure does linger.
Do not gaze at Scully.
I think the metal detectors would have worked better before the shower, guys. Fowley comes in and is all, Cassandra was exposed to a highly contagious organism, hence why we had to quarantine you. But I love how sassy Scully gets.
What?
Fowley claims this thing Cassandra had contracted somehow burned the bodies of a bunch of doctors. Oh what, you mean these doctors that were set on fire by the alien rebel? Now Scully seems to think something highly suspicious is going on, but there might be something to what Fowley is saying. I mean, Scully did take Cassandra from a room that clearly said no visitors, quarantine.
Mulder, I want to see Cassandra.
I told you, she's isolated.
Scully tells someone she's a medical doctor.
Yes, and I am a medical doctor.
I am just waiting for Scully to knock Fowley on her ass. Mulder does sort of confirm Fowley's story, because Skinner told him Spender did call the CDC about his mother, which again, quarantine. The Syndicate are all freaking out because of this Cassandra business. Cigarette Smoking Man wants to give her up to the aliens, and just let colonization begin so he can save his own ass. Though wouldn't he just become a slave to the aliens? I think I'd rather go down fighting than be taken over by some 3'0" spaceman. Mulder really needs to find a better tailor. Mulder then spots Marita, who looks like she hasn't slept in years.
I was infected with the alien virus, the black oil. My tests were on the vaccine against it.
Alright, so it seems like the Syndicate sort of screwed up. They've been trying to create a human-alien hybrid for the alien colonizers, but were using it as a means of stalling so they could create a vaccine. However, by dumb luck, they were actually successful, which means the colonizers can now go ahead with their plan. Anywho, Spender has a nice little visit with his mother, completely oblivious to what's really going on. You'd think by now maybe he would believe her when she tells him everyone is going to die if she lives, but I think Spender is just being willfully stupid at this point. You know what? Spender isn't the only one being willfully stupid. Mulder still refuses to believe that his little Fowley could be anything but an angel. Scully had her simps, the lone gunmen, do a little digging, and they found some interesting things. It seems little Miss Fowley has been traveling around Europe and checking in on women who were part of MUFON, the same kind of women Scully had a little chat with back in season, 3? So not only has Fowley been keeping tabs on these women, but she's also the one lording over Cassandra, making it impossible for Scully to prove or disprove what Mulder's been talking about this whole time.
I mean, you asked me to trust no one, and yet you trust her on simple faith.
Because you've given me no reason here to do otherwise.
Fowley must be amazing in bed because there is no way this man could be so obtuse about this. Scully tells Mulder she can no longer continue helping him since he's not going to listen to her anyways, but imagine giving up Scully for Fowley. Mulder decides to break into Fowley's apartment, and the very first thing he does is go through her underwear drawer. Real subtle there, Mulder.
Sorry. Nobody home.
Surely this must convince Mulder that what Scully's been saying is true, no? I don't think Cigarette Smoking Man came to see Fowley so they could Netflix and chill. Oh god. No, instead he showed up so he can spill the beans to Mulder and the audience. Though is it really anything we don't already know at this point? The Syndicate were basically working alongside the alien colonizers so they could create this alien-human hybrid, basically a slave race for the aliens. But it would ensure the survival of their children, though calling it survival sort of feels generous, especially when your new overlords shop in the kids section for spacesuits. At the same time, they were developing a vaccine to fight against the aliens. Anywho, after all that exposition, the Syndicate have all left to prepare for colonization. Although poor Krychek is left back, even though he was their errand boy for the past 5 years.
He's gonna get your mother.
No one can get to her. I've got her secured away.
Ah yes, the impenetrable guards that you and Fowley assigned. I'm sure they won't just let cigarette smoking man's people walk in and do what they want. Or maybe they will.
They never question it, do they?
What?
Your power and authority. But you're really such a coward.
Cigarette Smoking Man's wife is probably the only person that could get away with calling him a coward and not immediately eat a bullet. You know, I can't decide if CSM thinks what he's doing is right, or if he's just being a little selfish. On one hand, he said that they're doing this so their family members will live, but at the same time, Cassandra claims if she lives, then everyone dies. Maybe there is a piece of him that just can't bring himself to kill his wife, and maybe put an end to this. Who knows, it's all overly complicated anyways. For some reason, Mulder decides to give Fowley the fright of her life. Just thank God she didn't catch him digging through her underwear again.
Evidence that you'd lied to me. That you had loyalties other than to me or to the X-Files.
Nothing could be further from the truth, Fox.
Bullshit. She's been lying to Mulder from the very beginning. I don't know what his game is here though. He hands Fowley an address to an Air Force base where this whole thing is supposed to start, because he figures that this is the only way to survive at this point. But if that's how he feels, then why would he not want to bring Scully as well? I think he's being a little sneaky here. In the meantime, Spender goes looking for his mother, only to find Marita, who is in desperate need of a toothbrush.
I know where they're taking her. I know how they're taking her.
Oh hey, I remember the alien fetus. It's only been, what, 100 episodes since we last saw it? What's next? Are they gonna trot out Billy Miles too? Oh. I guess they need the alien fetus for something, but I think B. Arthur here needs it even more. The alien rebels will never not be terrifying. Mulder calls up Scully, and before he can be a complete downer and tell her they need to give up, Scully tells him she knows where Cassandra is, because Agent Spender told her. I don't know how much they can trust Spender though, but by this point I think he's finally realized that maybe Mulder and Scully were right this whole time. Mulder and Scully find the train car that I'm assuming Cassandra is aboard, but what do they think they're gonna do? They know their rinky-dink car isn't about to stop a train, right? What the hell did they think was gonna happen? Now they have no way to follow it.
You gonna tell me what the hell is going on?
Our lives are in danger. We don't have much time.
Why couldn't you tell me that over the phone?
Skinner feels like an angry parent that wants to know just what the hell his kids are up to. Anyways, the agents tell Skinner to take them to the airbase, since they just totaled their car for absolutely no reason. The Syndicate all gather for their little shindig, though surprisingly, Cigarette Smoking Man asks where Krychek is. I guess technically they didn't leave him out after all, though Krychek always seems to have his own little side projects that he's working on. Seems Krychek also wanted the alien fetus, but for what reason? I don't have a damn clue.
My father did this to her. She wants to tell her story.
Sorry, son of a bitch. You don't get it, do you? It's all going to hell. The rebels are gonna win.
Okay, but isn't that a good thing? If the rebels win, doesn't that mean colonization doesn't happen? Though from his perspective, I guess it ruins any sort of bargaining chip he might have had in the future with that fetus. Anyways, back with the Syndicate, and it looks like they have some visitors. Although I don't think it's the visitors they were expecting. My favorite part is watching Cigarette Smoking Man and Fowley slowly back away because they know the shit is about to hit the fan. Well, so long Teeth Talker. Though it is sort of messed up that their families also have to die, they didn't choose to be a part of this. Just like Mulder in the previous episode, Kirsch enjoys himself some photos from the most recent Burning Man event. Seriously though, Spender blames himself for what happened to all the people in the hangar, though how can he? These people signed their own death warrant, 30, 40, 50 years ago, when they got involved in this. But whatever, I'm glad he takes the blame, because this sets the universe right again, and places Mulder and Scully back on the X-Files. Thank God. Most of this could have been prevented if people would just listen to Mulder once. Well, at least the cigarette-smoking man is still alive, but what is he doing with that gun?
Hoping that my son might live to honor me, like Bill Mulder's son.
You know, the more I think about it, the more One Son feels like what Fight the Future should have been. I get why they didn't do it. A movie that ties up 6 years of tangled alien conspiracy wasn't exactly going to bring in new fans. But they did make the movie about the conspiracy anyway, so what's the difference? They could have wrapped up the Syndicate storyline there, ended on a high note, and then done the occasional Monster of the Week movie afterwards. But of course, Fox wasn't about to kill their golden goose, so the series had to keep limping along. Still, I can't help wondering, is the Syndicate really gone? We saw a bunch of them barbecued in that hangar, but what about Strughold? He was set up as their ringleader in the movie, and I didn't see him anywhere when the alien rebels dropped by for a light roasting. The Syndicate also had connections all over the world, so it's hard to believe the entire operation died with a handful of old men in the US. Maybe there were other chapters, or maybe the show just quietly forgot about that detail. Looking back at Season 2's Anasazi, when the Thinker broke into the DoD and downloaded the MJ12 files, there was a full-on international panic. You hear men from around the world, at least one German and one Japanese, judging by the accents, calling up the cigarette-smoking man to make sure it's being handled. That scene always made it clear this was more than just an American shadow group, it was a global cabal. So even if this particular group of the Syndicate members went up in smoke, it's hard not to think there are still others out there pulling the strings. Maybe the rebels only wiped out the US chapter, while the rest watched from abroad, wondering whose turn is next. And speaking of unfinished business, if this was supposed to be the all is revealed event, why didn't we finally get the truth about Samantha's abduction? We've been chasing that since the pilot. If you're gonna tie up your biggest mystery, shouldn't that be one of the things that gets answered? Maybe they held it back because once Mulder finds out what really happened, the show loses its emotional core. But still, don't promise full disclosure if you're going to leave the biggest thread dangling. And yes, CSM claimed Bill Mulder gave Samantha up like the rest of the Syndicate, but why didn't she come back? You can't exactly take CSM's word on anything. I know the idea was to hit the reset button, kill off the Syndicate, wipe the slate clean, and start a new mythology arc by the end of the season. And to be fair, the Two Fathers One Son arc does a decent job of tying up a story that had gotten way too dense for its own good. But even after all that fire and death, there are still so many questions left unanswered. And if I really wanted to, I could poke holes in just how nonsensical this entire alien colonization plan really is. Still, despite all that, it's a strong pair of episodes. Ambitious, intense, and absolutely the X-Files at its most self-serious and weird. It's messy, it's frustrating, and it's the end of an era. Maybe the Syndicate's gone, but the confusion lives on. One Son was seen as one of the most important mythology episodes of the series, even if not the most dramatically successful. The writers knew they'd hit what Frank Spotnitz called narrative drag. Too many questions had been carried forward for too long, so this two-parter became the reset button. A cleansing fire, if you will, that literally and figuratively burned away 6 years of conspiracy buildup. The idea was to close one chapter and open another. Cassandra Spender's transformation into the first successful alien-human hybrid was meant to finally explain what the Syndicate had been working toward all these years, and why that success meant total disaster for humanity. Their entire project, it turns out, was stalling for time. In the commentary, Spotnitz finally laid out the whole black oil mythology in plain English, or at least as close to plain as the X-Files ever got. The black oil is an ancient alien virus that's infected nearly every life form in the galaxy, except for humans and the faceless rebels. The rebels are trying to stop it, making them the enemy of our enemy, which is why they step in at the end of One Son to save humanity from becoming glorified alien hosts. Cassandra's story was built around sacrifice. She knows what she is and what she represents. She's willing to die to stop colonization. Meanwhile, her son Jeffrey represents denial. He can't face the truth even when it's staring him down in a quarantine chamber. The writers also had fun flipping the Mulder-Scully dynamic. Foully out-Scullied Scully, forcing Scully to be more Mulder-like in her approach. Having her enlist the lone gunman against Mulder was a clever twist, and a rare moment where Mulder's blind spot wasn't a UFO, it was his ex. The heart of the episode, though, is Mulder's confrontation with the cigarette-smoking man. For once, CSM's logic almost makes sense. The Syndicate's devil's bargain, surrender now, survive later, bought humanity time to develop a vaccine against the black oil. Bill Mulder, ever the idealist, opposed it, but eventually went along, even offering up Samantha as part of the deal. When you spell it all out, it's a pretty terrible plan, but compared to Extinction, it's hard to argue with their logic. One of the most surprising turns in the episode is Mulder's apparent surrender. After CSM hands him that ticket to survive, Mulder genuinely seems ready to give up, until Scully snaps him out of it. The title One Son came from the dynamic between CSM and 3 of the show's key male characters. Bill Mulder and CSM are the 2 fathers, and between Mulder, Spender, and Krychek you have 3 sons, each one trying and failing to win CSM's approval. Spender's the biological son, Krychek's the wannabe heir, and Mulder's the reluctant candidate left standing after everyone else gets shot or torched. Even the show's biggest villain gets a tiny glimmer of humanity in this one. The scene on the train between CSM and Cassandra was meant to show that deep down, he still loved her even if it doomed him. But that little flicker of empathy evaporates once the plot calls for him to light up again. The Mulder and Fowley kiss was designed as a gotcha moment, confirming that she was fully complicit. Instead of appealing to Mulder's conscience, she was flattered to be invited into the apocalypse. Nothing says evil like a romantic subplot during an alien takeover. Krychek, of course, was doing his usual side hustle, trying to steal the alien fetus for himself before realizing the rebels beat him to it. Nick Lee always managed to make Krychek a villain you couldn't help but like, which made his pettiness towards Spender even funnier.
Sorry, son of a bitch.
Spotnitz later admitted that if you dropped into One Son cold, it would be borderline incomprehensible. The writers assumed you were already invested because otherwise, good luck. He also pointed out that by this point, Scully's journey had quietly become just as mythic as Mulder's. In the early seasons, she was assigned to spy on him, but by One Son, she's every bit as much of a crusader. In fact, she's the one who brings Mulder back from the edge. Again. And there are some great production stories from the set. Dean Haglund, who plays Langley, once said Chris Owens received his script missing the pages where Spender gets shot. Chris Carter called to warn him saying, "Don't worry, you get shot, but there's no body." Then minutes later, someone literally slid the missing pages under his door. William B. Davis didn't want to film that scene either. He reportedly told Owens, "I don't want to shoot you, I enjoy working with you," which might be the nicest thing the cigarette-smoking man has ever said to anyone. And finally, Spotnitz admitted he loved bringing back Marita just to take away Laurie Holden's beauty. And yeah, he definitely succeeded in that regard. One Son might be overcomplicated, but it's also fascinating. It's the show blowing up its own mythology and still leaving half of it open-ended. The Syndicate's gone, but the questions aren't, which honestly might be the most X-Files thing of all.
What?
One Son currently sits at 8.8 on IMDb. I think it does a pretty good job of wrapping up a fairly convoluted and confusing plot, so I'll probably go with a 7. Up next, we have something drastically different, as Mulder and Scully have to contend with a creepy tentacle monster in the episode Aquamala. So what do you think of One Son? Let me know down in the comments. Anyways, that's all for today. I hope you have a great weekend and stay spooky.
Scully, you're making this personal.
Personal interest is all that I have.
2 sides,
We don't have much time.
1 battle.
We saved billions.
So that you alone could survive.
The answers you've been waiting for in the final act of the ultimate conspiracy.
Who are you?
The X-Files, full disclosure. An all-new episode Sunday on Fox.
Huge thanks to all my channel members, you're the real MVPs of the Spooky Squad. Your support helps keep the lights flickering and the monsters fed. If you'd like to join up and help support the channel, check out the join button below. But no pressure, just watching and liking helps a ton too.